Next concept, LC oscillations. L is the inductor, C is the capacitor. If these two devices are connected as shown in the diagram, they perform oscillations. That means the charge and the current, they perform oscillation. We know that the capacitor stores electrical energy, inductor stores mechanical energy. When a fully charged capacitor is connected to an inductor as shown in the circuit, the charge in the capacitor and current flowing through the circuit both will exhibit the phenomenon of electrical oscillation. Now this oscillation is similar to that of oscillations in a mechanical system, that is in the case of a simple pendulum or in the case of a spring, a mass or a block attached to a spring. Now these two exhibits oscillations. In the same way, here in this LC circuit, the charge on the capacitor as well as current flowing through the circuit both exhibits electrical oscillation, and hence this network is called as LC oscillator. This network we call it as LC oscillator. Okay. Now we will study how this theory of this LC oscillation, how it is going to exhibit oscillations. Let me consider a capacitor of capacitance C. Now it is initially fully charged with a maximum charge Qm. Initially the capacitor is fully charged with charge Qm at a time t is equal to 0, that is initially. As and when the inductor is connected to that fully charged capacitor, since it is fully charged, it acts as a source of energy, that is electrical energy. As and when the inductor is connected, the charges starts to flow. The flow of charges obviously constitutes an electrical current in the circuit. It obviously constitutes an electrical current in the circuit. Now these charges are now goes on decreasing. Charges now goes on decreasing now here. Now what is the voltage across the capacitor? We have capacitance C is equal to Q by V. Therefore voltage across the capacitor is Q by C. Okay. Then what is, as and when the current starts to flow, there is a self EMF induced in the inductor coil. As the current starts to flow, there is an induced EMF. It is a back EMF that we have called. There is a back EMF induced in the coil, and that back EMF is given by the relation minus L into di by dt that we have already studied. This is the back EMF, and this is the voltage across the capacitor. Now if you apply Kirchhoff loop rule to that network, the algebraic sum of the EMFs and IR drops, it is equal to 0. That is the voltage across the capacitor Q by C minus the back EMF plus, that is minus L into di by dt is equal to 0. Why this is 0? Since we are not at all applying any source. Yavade source annu apply madade irodrinda right hand side alli namage 0 namage sigta ide. Now look here, very interesting thing. As and when the inductor is connected, the charges starts to flow. That means the number of charges goes on decreasing in the capacitor. As and when the number of charges decreases, what about the current? The current goes on increases. So therefore, we will substitute the current I is equal to minus dq by dt. We know that current is the rate of flow of charges. So since here the number of charges are decreasing, correspondingly the current is increasing. Therefore, in order to mention that one, we are having or we are using a negative sign. Therefore, current I is equal to minus of dq by dt, because charge is decreasing. As start to flow, the charges, number of charges goes on decreases. Now, if I substitute this one in this equation, I will get q by c minus L into d by dt of minus dq by dt, that is equal to 0. Minus L into d by dt of, we are substituting for I, minus dq by dt. So therefore this becomes q by c minus of minus plus L into, this can be written as second order derivative d2q by dt square, that is equal to 0. Or if I rearrange the terms, d2q by dt square plus 1 upon LC into Q is equal to 0. Now this is a very interesting relation here we are having. Now this relation is similar to that of equation for simple harmonic motion that we have studied in first PUC. That is d2x by dt square plus omega naught square into x, that is equal to 0. Now this equation represents the simple harmonic motion that we have studied in first PUC classes. Okay. So therefore these two equations exactly resembles, and hence now this equation represents electrical oscillation of both the charge and the current. Now comparing these two equations, we get omega naught square is equal to 1 upon LC, or omega naught is equal to 1 upon root LC. Now that is the frequency of oscillation of the charge as well as the electric current. Omega naught is equal to 1 upon root LC. Therefore, this equation is the equation for oscillation of the electric charge. Now charge is oscillating here. Now the charge is given by Q is equal to Qm into cos of omega naught t plus phi. Okay, omega naught is the frequency of oscillation of the charge and phi is a phase constant. Qm is, it is the maximum value of the charge. Qm is the maximum value of the charge. Now if you take the initial conditions at t is equal to 0, what is the charge? The charge is equal to the maximum value Qm. If I substitute this condition in this variation of charge in the equation, I am getting Qm is equal to Qm into cos of t is 0, therefore it is phi. Okay, so Qm get cancelled, therefore I will get cos phi is equal to 1. Therefore then what is the phase angle? It is equal to 0 here. Phase angle, initial phase angle is 0, and hence this equation reduces to the variation of charge. It reduces to Q is equal to Qm into cos of omega naught t. That is the equation of the charge. From this one, how can you work out the current? That I will work here. Now the current is given by, since charge is decreasing here, current is increasing, I am having minus dq by dt, the rate of change of charge, rate of flow of charge. That is minus d by dt of charge is given by this expression, Qm into variation of the charge, it is cos omega naught t. Qm, it is a constant, minus Qm. What is the derivation of cos? It is minus sine omega naught t, and derivative of omega naught t, it is omega naught t. Okay, so therefore the expression for the current is I is equal to minus into minus plus omega naught Qm into sine of omega naught T, or I is equal to, I will write this product omega naught Qm as Im, peak value of the current, into sine omega t. Now that is the expression for the current. Now this is the expression for the variation in the charge, and this is the expression for the variation in the current in that LC circuit. Now initially there is an electrical energy. As and when inductor is connected, the current starts to flow. Therefore here an EMF is induced, and hence energy is stored in that coil in the form of a magnetic energy. Magnetic field lines are produced on the answer. So therefore what happens? The electrical energy is going to convert it into magnetic energy. And later onwards, the magnetic energy gets converted into electrical energy. Now we will study how an LC oscillator works. That is how it is going to oscillate. We know that capacitor stores energy in the electrical form, that is U is equal to half Q square by C, and inductor stores the energy in the form of mechanical energy, in the form of magnetic energy, that is given by half L I square. This is electrical energy stored in the capacitor, and this is the magnetic energy stored in the. Now you will be having 5 diagrams. This is A, and this diagram is B, and call this as C, and D, and E. Okay. Now the first diagram, look at the first diagram. We have a fully charged capacitor. It is not at all connected to inductor. There is an opening. Whenever the capacitor is fully charged, we have electrical energy UE is equal to half Qm square by C. What is the magnetic energy in the coil? 0, because there is no current flowing. Now as and when the inductor is connected to the fully charged capacitor, the current starts to flow. The number of charges in the capacitor, it goes on decreasing. Therefore, here it is Qm square by C. Now here it is the electrical energy is half Q by C square. Since charge is decreasing, therefore this electrical energy is decreasing. Obviously there is a current flowing in the inductor, therefore we are getting a magnetic energy in the inductor, that is half L I square. Therefore electrical energy is converting into magnetic energy. As and when, now here there are 4 set of charges. Now here we are having only 2 set of charges. Now look into the second diagram, the third diagram. Now here the charges are fully flown through the inductor. Therefore there is no charge on the capacitor. Therefore it's a potential energy. The energy stored in the capacitor is 0 because there is no charge. And there is a maximum amount of electrical energy, mechanical energy, maximum amount of mechanical energy stored in the inductor, that is given by half L Im square. Now here it is I, a small amount of current. Now this is Im, a maximum current. After the entire charges are flown, we are getting a maximum charge. Now here, look here, the entire electrical energy gets converted into the magnetic energy. Okay. Now after some time, there is no charge. Since it is completely energized, the current starts to flow further because of this magnetic energy. Now this flow of current, it charges, once again charges the capacitor, but it in the opposite direction. Look here, initially the upper plate is positive, lower plate is negative. Now it's completely discharged here in this case. Now in the fourth diagram, this current further continues to flow, and hence that capacitor is going to charge in the opposite direction. That means lower plate becomes positive and upper plate becomes negative, and the corresponding energies are given here. And in the fifth diagram, once the entire current has flown, the capacitor gets fully charged, and hence we have completely electrical energy. The magnetic energy becomes zero. Therefore, these 5 diagrams depict that the electrical energy which is stored in the capacitor is slowly converting into magnetic energy in the inductor and gets completely converted to magnetic energy here. Once again, it is going to convert from magnetic energy to electric energy, and here the entire magnetic energy gets converted into electrical energy. So like this cycle continues by converting electrical energy to the magnetic energy and magnetic energy into the electrical energy. Therefore, the charge and the current, they are going to make oscillate, that is electrical oscillations. Now this oscillation can be easily depicted, easily compared with that of a mass attached to a spring, as shown in the beneath diagrams. Initially, this mass is pulled through a certain distance and held constant. Therefore, this spring system has potential energy half Ka square. Since it is not moving, therefore kinetic energy is zero. Now the mass is released. Now it starts to move with an velocity. So therefore kinetic energy, it's got kinetic energy, but it is not zero. So potential energy goes on decreasing. As and when the mass approaches the mean position of the system, the kinetic energy becomes maximum, that is half Vm square. Vm is the maximum velocity. Then the potential energy becomes zero. Now in the fourth diagram, it further advances due to the momentum. Then kinetic energy goes on decreasing, the potential energy goes on increases. As and when it completely presses the spring, kinetic energy becomes zero, we will get maximum potential energy of Ka square. So in this way, we can compare those two oscillations. Now this is the electrical or electromagnetic oscillation, and this is the mechanical oscillations. Now we will compare these two. Okay. Now this mechanical oscillation is given by the equation d2x by dt square plus omega naught square x is equal to 0. This is for mechanical oscillation. Now what is the electrical oscillation that we have obtained? d2q by dt square plus omega naught square into q is equal to 0. Now here omega naught is, it is k by m, or omega naught square is k by m, omega is equal to square root of k by m in the case of mechanical oscillation. In the case of electrical oscillation, omega naught square is equal to 1 upon LC, that we have studied earlier. Therefore omega naught is equal to 1 upon root LC. Now carefully compare those two. In the place of L, we are having m. Therefore mass is equivalent to, mass in mechanics is equivalent to self-inductance in magnetism. Similarly, we have a spring constant K. K is the spring constant. Now that is equal to reciprocal of the capacitance. Spring constant, it is equal to reciprocal of the capacitance. Now we have a displacement x that is related to the charge. Displacement x is related to the charge, and velocity v is equal to dx by dt, that is related to current I is equal to dq by dt. Okay. Now these are the comparisons, and also we can compare energy also, that is this energy plus this one. Now sum of these two, It is the electromagnetic energy, and sum of these two here. So um is half kx square, u potential energy, and kinetic energy is k is equal to half m v square, their sum. Now this total represents total mechanical energy of this mass system, and this sum represents total electromagnetic energy. Like this we can compare the mechanical oscillations with the electromagnetic oscillations. One important note you should remember. Now we have studied this electromagnetic oscillation, that is LC oscillator. It is only for an ideal case. That means there is no loss of energy. With that analogy, we have studied this one. But in practice, it is not possible. This oscillation should not sustain for a longer time. It is also going to die out because of two important reasons. Now one is this inductor L, it has some resistance. As and when the current flows through the inductor, there is obviously a loss of energy in the form of heat, that is Joule heating effect, and hence this inductance, because of its resistance, provides damping effect to the oscillation. After some time, that oscillation dies out. That is the first reason. And the second one, even though if we minimize the resistance, or if even though the resistance is very negligible, even then also this electromagnetic oscillation dies out, because we know that we will study in later chapters. In the case of an oscillation, an oscillating particle, it is going to radiate energy in the form of electromagnetic waves. Now these oscillations from electrical to magnetic, magnetic to electric, it is going to radiate energy in the form of electromagnetic waves, and hence this oscillation is going to damp out and dies out. Clear? Now the last concept in this chapter, transformer. As the name itself indicates, it transforms AC voltage from one value to the higher value or the lower value. That's why the name is called as transformer. It is a device which increases or decreases the AC voltage. The device which increases or decreases the AC voltage is called transformer. It works on the principle of mutual induction. It works on the principle of mutual induction. What is mutual induction? A current flowing through one coil induces an EMF in the another coil. On that principle, this transformer works. Now this transformer consists of two coils. So we have a core, okay, this system. Now we have a one coil which is called primary, which is wound on a core over which another coil is wound. Another coil is wound, it is called secondary. The transformer consists of two coils. One coil, it is the primary coil over which another coil is wound, it is called secondary coil. Now both these coils are insulated from each other. They are insulated from each other. This is one method of having a transformer, or we have another method of having a transformer. The two coils are separately wound to the two separate cores. Now here one coil is wound It is the primary coil, and here the another coil is wound. We call it as secondary coil. If they are wound one over the other, or if they are separately wound to a metallic core. Now that is the transformer. Now if the primary coil is having the number of turns, let me call it as NP. Now the secondary coil is having a number of turns NS. As and when the AC voltage is applied to the primary coil, we are applying an AC voltage applied to the primary coil. Let that voltage is VP, since we are applying to the primary coil, or EMF EP. Now the EMF EP is applied to the primary coil. Obviously, there is a current flowing through the primary coil. Now let me call that current as IP. IP is the current flowing through the primary coil. As and when the current flows through the primary coil, there is a magnetic field generated. Now these magnetic field lines, they are in link with the secondary coil. As and when this magnetic flux is linked with the secondary coil, since the secondary coil has ns number of turns and each coil has a magnetic flux of phi, then ns into phi we call it as flux linkage that we have studied. Phi is the flux linked with only one coil, that is each coil. Since in the secondary we are having ns number of turns, therefore total flux linkage of the secondary is ns into phi. Since this magnetic field is varying, that flux linkage is also varying. That varying flux linkage induces an EMF in the secondary according to Faraday, that is given by minus ns into d phi by dt, minus ns into d phi by dt. Since these two coils are having a very smaller resistance, whatever the EMF applied, it is same as taken as the potential drop across the secondary. Therefore, Vs is equal to minus ns into d phi by dt. This is the output voltage. The secondary voltage, the voltage taken across the secondary coil is also called as output voltage. This is one step. Since the current is flowing through this coil, there is a self EMF induced in the primary coil, that we called it as back EMF. Therefore, back EMF induced in the primary coil is given by minus Np into d phi by dt. That is the rate of change of flux linkage of the primary coil itself. Since the current flowing is very small and the resistance of the coil is very small, so we can estimate the primary EMF induced to primary EMF induced is equal to the voltage across the primary coil. So therefore we get Vp is equal to minus Np into d phi by dt. We are getting two expressions. Now this is the output voltage. Vs is equal to minus of ns into d phi by dt, and Vp is equal to minus of Np into di by dt. Obviously, there is a current flowing in the secondary coil. That current we take it as Is. Is is the current in the secondary coil. Now take the ratio of these two expressions, that is Vs by Vp is equal to d phi by dt cancels, minus minus cancels, therefore we are getting ns by np. In the case of a transformer, The voltage across the input or the output is directly proportional to the number of turns in the input or the output. Now input voltage is directly proportional to the number of turns in the input coil. Output voltage is directly proportional to number of turns in the output coil. Since there is no energy loss for an ideal case, since there is no energy loss, whatever the power we have delivered, that is power input, we are getting the same power output. Now power input is Vi, that is Vp, power at the primary, into Ip is equal to power output is voltage across the secondary into current in the secondary, Is. If you take the ratio, if you take Vs by Vp is equal to Ip by Is, we are getting Vs by Vp is equal to Ip by Is. But what is Vs by Vp? It is Ns by Np. Therefore, this is equal to Ns by Np. That means the current is inversely proportional to the number of turns. If the turns is more, current is less. If the turns is less, the current is more. So therefore, we have an important relation among them as output voltage divided by the input voltage is equal to number of turns in the secondary divided by the number of turns in the primary. That is equal to current flowing through the primary divided by current flowing through the secondary. This is a very, very important relation for the case of an ideal transformer. Now with this sign, with this equation, we can classify transformer into two types. So one is step up transformer. Step up means if the secondary voltage is more than the primary voltage, that is output voltage is more than the input voltage, the transformer is going to increase the voltage. Then it is called step up transformer. For the step up transformer, since secondary voltage is greater than, since Vs is greater than Vp, therefore the number of turns in the secondary should be greater than the number of turns in the primary. In a transformer, if the number of turns in the secondary is greater than the number of turns in the primary, then that type of transformer we call it as a step up transformer. The circuit symbol for the step up transformer is primary is having a lesser number of turns, but the secondary is having a more number of turns. Now this is input and this one is the output, or this is primary. Now this is secondary. Now here number of turns is less, here number of turns is more. Now whatever the input voltage is given, we are getting a higher output voltage. But as the voltage increases, what about the current? The current has to decrease here. So as voltage increases, the current has to decrease, so that what should be the constant? Power is constant. We should get a constant power. Power is a product of V and I. As V increases, I should decrease. This is one type of transformer. We have another type. If Ns is less than Np, that is number of turns in the secondary is less than the number of turns in the primary, then it is called step down transformer. Now that transformer decreases the output voltage of the applied input voltage. Now the circuit symbol for this case is we are having more number of turns in the primary, but we are having only a lesser number of turns in the secondary. This is input, this is what we are having output. This is step up and this one is step down transformer. Now here what happens? The output voltage decreases, obviously current increases. Here the output voltage decreases. What about the current? The current has to increase so that the power should be the constant. Now this is step down. It is going to decrease the input voltage. Okay. Let me give one example. We have NP is equal to 100 tons and NS is equal to 200 tons. Then it is whether step up or step down. Since the secondary turns is more than the primary turns, therefore it is a step up transformer. Okay. Now I am applying a voltage of 220 volts and with a current of 10 amps. If it is applied to this transformer, now what we are going to, now this is VP and IP. Now you can work out what is output voltage and output current here. Okay, since Vs by Vp is equal to Ns by Np. Therefore, Vs is equal to Ns by Np into Vp. Number of turns in the secondary 200. This is 100 and Vp is 220 volts. Okay, now this becomes 2. Therefore, the output voltage becomes 440 volts. We have applied 220 volts. The output of this step up transformer becomes 440 volts. It is doubled. Similarly, if you work out the current, Is by Ip is equal to Np by Ns. Okay, it is inversely proportional. Okay, therefore Is is equal to Np by Ns into Ip. 100 by 200 into Ip is 10. Therefore, the secondary current reduces to 5 amps. Initial current is, primary current is 10 amps. When it is applied to a step up transformer, the current reduces. So like this you can understand the step up transformer and the step down transformer. Now step up transformers are used at the generating station. In the case of a power generation, it is generated at 220 volts or 240 volts, but it has to be transmitted through a longer distance. Then this generated voltage is applied to a step up transformer. In that transformer, the voltage has been increased tremendously to a larger value, so that current is decreased. Why we have to decrease the current? In order to transmit this power with high voltage and low current, because of the presence of the resistance of the transmission line, there may be a loss, there is a loss of energy in the form of Joule heating effect, that is I square R, that you have studied earlier. So in order to minimize that loss, we have to transmit that power with high voltage and lower current. As and when this power is received at the substation, at the receiving station, we are using a step down transformer. The voltage which is coming with high voltage, it has to be reduced to the lower voltage and higher current, and that in turn is supplied to the household things. That you should remember. And the last concept is, we have studied this one with respect to an ideal transformer. What is an ideal transformer? The current flowing in the primary as well as secondary is very low, and the coils are having a lesser amount of resistances, negligible amount of resistances, there is no loss of energy. But in practice, there is a loss of energy. Energy loss in transformer. Now first way of energy loss is flux leakage. Leakage. That meaning is the primary coil is producing the magnetic field lines. The entire magnetic field lines may not reach the secondary coils, may not link with the secondary coils. There are some field lines which are leaking away without linking the secondary coils. That is called as a flux leakage. The magnetic flux of the primary, all the magnetic field lines may not link with the secondary coils. There are some field lines which are leaking away, and that is called as flux leakage. If that is the case, then obviously there is an energy loss. In order to overcome this flux leakage, what is the best method? We are winding one coil above the other coil so that the entire flux will be linked. First one. Second one, resistance loss. Resistance of the coil. Since the coil are having the resistances, there is a loss of energy due to Joule heating effect. That is, power loss is equal to I square R. This is Joule heating effect. In the form of heat, some power is lost out. Therefore, there is a loss of energy because of the resistance of the coil. That is the second one. Third one, energy loss due to eddy current. As and when the current flows through the coils, inside the coil we are having a core. In the core, eddy currents are developed. Now these eddy currents are unwanted currents which are developed due to the variation of the magnetic field. They lose the energy in the form of heat. This eddy current loss can be minimized by using laminated core. Instead of using a thick single core, if you use a laminated core, then this eddy current loss can be minimized. That is the third way of energy loss in a transformer. And the last, fourth way, that is hysteresis loss. Loss of energy due to hysteresis. That means, since we are having a core inside the coil, that core is continuously magnetized, demagnetized, demagnetized by the applied AC. Because of AC, that core undergoes continuous magnetization, demagnetization, magnetization, demagnetization. Obviously, there is a loss of energy due to the hysteresis. So this can also be minimized by using a material as a core which is having a lesser hysteresis loss. So in this way we can minimize hysteresis loss. Now these are the four ways of energy loss in a transformer. Now this one is a very interesting question. It might be asked for 2 marks. Most frequently asked question for the annual examination point of view. Clear? Now that completes this very interesting chapter, alternating current.